The irony of today's assassination attempt on Donald Trump is that he is the candidate who pushes and advocates for political violence and has done, whether it's referring to shooting immigrants at the border or fighting like hell at the US Capitol. And as we know, him and the MAGA Republican Party have the support of the National Rifle Association, and they are dead against the banning of AR-15 style weapons, which was the weapon used to potentially assassinate Donald Trump at this rally in Pennsylvania. Now, it's being investigated as an assassination attempt, and so that's why I'm referring to it as that. But that moment, that Che Guevara moment that Donald Trump clearly attempted to make use of once he realized that he, was still alive and that he had a flesh wound to the right ear, where he pumped his fist in the air with blood on his face, being rushed off the stage by the Secret Service. These images are history-making and undoubtedly will have an effect on the election in November. And even Donald Trump's son, Eric, was the first to post that image on social media with the caption, "This is the fighter that America needs." It's a very sad day because political violence on any level should not be happening. But of course, we live in a country where people are armed and where people claim that they have a right to own weapons. They interpret the Constitution to mean a full array of weapons of war, and some of them, as we've seen, may choose to use them. We now know that it was an AR-15 style weapon. We know that this shooter was up on a rooftop, actually outside the kind of fairground where the rally was, and was able to kind of shoot at long range towards Donald Trump. It's kind of uncertain whether or not it was a bullet that kind of brushed his ear or whether it was the glass from the teleprompter shattering. We'll probably find out in time. But Donald Trump has actually posted on Truth Social. We assume it's Donald Trump. It's quite well written. He writes, "I want to thank the United States Secret Service and all of law enforcement for their rapid response on the shooting that just took place in Butler, Pennsylvania. Most importantly, I wanted to extend my condolences to the family of the person at the rally who was killed and also to the family of another person that was badly injured. It is incredible that such an act can take place in our country. Nothing is known at this time about the shooter, who is now dead. I was shot with a bullet that pierced the upper part of my right ear. I knew immediately that something was wrong in that I heard a whizzing sound, shots, and immediately felt the bullet ripping through the skin. Much bleeding took place, so I realized then what was happening. God bless America." Interesting use of language and use of words from the former president. And clearly, he will be using this moment, these images, and this very dramatic story to fundraise and to electioneer and to claim that this is the Democrats. And tragically, that horrific rhetoric has already started to be posted from people such as J.D. Vance, who is a likely vice presidential candidate for Donald Trump. He posted, "Today is not just some isolated incident. The central premise of the Biden campaign is that President Donald Trump is an authoritarian fascist who must be stopped at all costs. That rhetoric led directly to President Trump's attempted assassination." I mean, that is simply not true. It's true that he is an authoritarian fascist, and we should not dial that back whatsoever. And if you've read his manifesto in the form of Project 2025, you'll recognize that this far-right Christian nationalist, white supremacist view of America is exactly that. But nobody on the left has ever called for political violence. Nobody has ever suggested that Donald Trump should be assassinated. Nobody has ever suggested that people take weapons to a rally. You will remember that on January 6th, it was Donald Trump that wanted people to be able to bring their weapons to a rally. And of course, we now know that the Oath Keepers very much did do that. But this is where we're at. You know, this idea that somebody who we know nothing about at this stage should be used as a platform to suggest that Democrats have suggested that this type of violence is necessary. And Ronnie Jackson, the former White House doctor or pill supplier, he posted, "Trump deranged left-wing lunatics that parade around MSNBC and other fake news outlets demonizing Trump and calling him Hitler are directly responsible for this violent attack on President Trump's life. They have blood on their hands. Enough of the violent rhetoric. America is pissed," he said. I mean, these extremist positions bear no resemblance to the language of Democrats or even journalists such as myself. We do not over-dramatize this moment in American political history. And as tragic as this event was, and we now know that not just the one person who died in the crowd, but 2 others are critically ill now in hospital, injured from the shrapnel or the bullets flying in the air. I mean, this guy fired off a lot of bullets from this AR-15 at long range. And so, it's any wonder that more people were not killed. But more disgraceful and sickening tweets from a sitting Republican member of Congress, this time Mike Collins of Georgia. He posted simply, "Joe Biden sent the orders." Joe Biden, incidentally, has spoken to the nation and has condemned all political violence. He's also tried to contact Donald Trump directly to offer his support and condolences. He's also cancelled all of his political campaigning and TV ads and the like. That is what a civil leader does. That is the important part of being a civilized political figure, not to incite violence as Donald Trump has done. And there is a certain irony with the fact that it was Donald Trump that was targeted, considering that he is the one that advocates for political violence. And so this is where we're at now. This day that will be remembered. Donald Trump will certainly remember this day. He'll certainly use this day for fundraising. And what we've seen is Republicans come out and use very explicit language, blaming Democrats, blaming the rhetoric of Trump being an extremist. Trump is an extremist. That does not change. I want to make that point that, Donald Trump's former presidency and future presidency, if he was to win, would be devastating to human rights and women's rights and the democratic values of America. And yet, Nancy Pelosi posted, "As one whose family has been the victim of political violence, I know firsthand that political violence of any kind has no place in our society. I thank God that former President Trump is safe. As we learn more details about this horrifying incident, let us pray that all those in attendance at the former president's rally today are unharmed." She posted that at 4:30 in the afternoon, probably before the news that one had died. And so, this is a Democrat. This is a former speaker. This is somebody whose own husband, Paul Pelosi, was attacked by a Trump supporter with a hammer inside his own home. This is the reality of the political division in the US right now. And it is such that the media has been, failing to really expose what is happening, where political parties in the US, instead of vying for public support so that they can act in the public interest, are presented as political enemies. And you're either in one camp or the other. I personally don't believe that that's how the people are. And I believe that if you poll people nationally, you'll see that America is a far more progressive and respectful place than the media would have us believe. So we are reflecting, reporting on this news as Joe Biden has appeared on television saying there was no place in America for political violence. He's expressed concern for his Republican opponent and said he hoped to speak with him later tonight. And politicians from all across the political spectrum, people who agree on very little else, are coming together to say violence has no place in a democracy. I'm Anthony Davis. You can catch me on the 5 Minute News YouTube channel and podcast, on Wednesdays co-hosting Uncovered, and on Sunday on The Weekend Show with Midas Touch.